You won't believe how often this comes up. I've been talking to a bunch of businesses lately about AI automations, and they all come to me with cool ideas. But underneath, there is often the same problem. Like I was working with this real estate agency, and they wanted AI automation that writes a final report based on a bunch of documents that they signed during the project. But then I asked them, where does the data come from? And turns out there's a little bit of information saved in CRM, and there is some files that have been saved in the folder, but then there is also a lot of files that they receive in an inbox and never saved. Complete mess. So we realized pretty quickly that before a fancy AI writer, we need to solve a data problem. Build an automation that saves all the files in the right folders and keeps your CRM updated. And once we did that, apparently it's not that hard to fill out the final report form when you have all your data right there in front of you. Loads of businesses deal with manual data juggling. So today, I'm going to show you how you can set up automation that's going to fix this problem for you. I know you can't wait to dive into an A10 flow, but before we do that, let's take a look at a quick demo. So of course I can't show you the real CRM this customer used, but I tried to rebuild something very similar using ClickUp. On the project board, we have different stages. So every project goes through multiple stages, starting with a new lead, then active client, that's when they actually start searching for a property, offer made, offer accepted, and closed. Of course, these stages could be different for different businesses. You can adjust that, you can rename it. But the point is that you can assign different stages to different projects. And what we want to do is we want to create folders. We want to create a Google Drive folder for every project that moved to an active client state. Here's a Google Drive space where we want to create folders for new projects. And let's try to do that. So we're just going to move Nina Patel, David Lean, and maybe John Sterling to active client. And then we're going to go back to our Google Drive. And voila, we have 3 empty folders created for each of active clients. Okay, so it worked. This is great. First step. But next, we want to save any attachment that they send through email. As a real estate agent, they need to keep all that data as a paper trail. So it would be nice for them to keep this data saved in the properly named folders. And that's what we're going to do next. I just send to myself these 2 documents. One is a driving license from Canada land, and another one is, well, you can see it here. It's agreement of purchase. It's PDF. Okay, here you go. It's loaded. But in this case, we only want to save these files if the client is in offer made or offer accepted phase. So let's move John and David to those phases. And now we can go to NA10 and run this flow. You can see that it grabbed data from ClickUp, that it went through email, and now it saves files to a Google Drive. It also analyzes those files and extracts information from them. And the last step, it labels that email as processed. So let's check. Now here we have our Canada Land ID and we have agreement of purchase. But more than that, we actually updated CRM. That's why we were processing those files. Now on this CRM card, we have sign-in date, we have closing date, we have name of the seller, and we have property address. In the real CRM, they actually had different fields for each of those things, but I just threw all this data in one general text field. But you will see that on the backside in NA10, it's actually different variables, so you can assign them to separate fields. So just like that, we pulled the files together and updated CRM. Saved a ton of manual labor. By the way, I organized this workflow into template that you can download absolutely for free from the link in the description. And at the end of the video, I will show you how to set it up. All right, my camera died, but that's not gonna stop me. To power that automation that I just showed you, I built 2 different NA10 workflows. The first one just tracks if there was a change of status for a project and creates a folder within Google Drive. And then the second, quite larger one, this one checks inbox for new emails from active clients, finds attachments, saves them, extracts data from them, and updates CRM. So now we're gonna go one by one. As any flow, this one starts with a trigger we're going to use ClickUp trigger because we want to trigger this action when the status of the project changes. If you downloaded this template from description, you will need to connect your ClickUp account. I already have mine connected, but in the end of this video, I'm going to show you how to do that. Then you will need to select your organization, Magic Ops for me, and then events that you want to track. Well, we want to check status updated and the list ID. In a ClickUp, we are tracking statuses on the project's board or project's list, and here is the list ID. So we can copy it from that URL and paste it here. In the output, as you can see, there was a change in the status. The project status was changed from new lead to active client, but it doesn't give us a lot of information. We still don't know what is the name of the project. We just have the status change and we have its ID. First, we want to know what the status change was. We don't care about some of those changes. Well, in this case, in this specific board, we almost don't need this step because basically we can make it that any status change from new lead would be enough qualification for us to create a folder. But you might be only interested in creating folders for specific status, and that's why I added that step. So here we have JSON history after status, so before and after. So make sure that you grab the right one, and you can just drag and drop it here. And then we're selecting it if it's equal to active client. If the status change was to active client, then we continue with this flow. The next step is we need to get project name, because if you remember, here we didn't get the project name, and we need the project name to create the folder that matches the project name. So we're going to use another ClickUp node. And by the way, if you didn't download my template, here's where you find all these nodes. ClickUp has a bunch of nodes. This one is get task because we are trying to find the name of the task. So we have our account already connected. The operation is get task, and then we have task ID. So we are grabbing it from our filter because filter passes that task ID through. And here is our task ID. As an output, we receive this data. As you can see, there is a lot of data that we receive in this output. But what's important is that it has things that we care about. It has the name of the project, Carlos Mendes Starter Home. Before we create a Google Drive folder, we want to make sure that this folder doesn't exist yet. So I use a search file folder Google Drive node. Again, you can find it here, search files and folders. And here as a search query, I'm passing the project name. I also don't want it to search across the entire Google Drive. So I'm using filter, where from the list, I'm selecting specific folder where I'm creating those folders. If folder exists, then the output is going to show that. But in our case, it didn't exist and it led us through. And we got to the last step, which is create project folder. Folder name, we are getting this from get project name. Again, just drag and drop it there. As a parent drive, we selected whatever drive you want to use, and the parent folder is the one where we want to save it. And you can see here, we are getting output that kind of confirms that we created this folder. Well, one thing that I didn't mention is that, again, you will need to set up your Google Drive connection. I already have my setup, which makes it easier. But at the end of this video, I will show you how to set up a Google Drive. Let's take a look at the second workflow. Here's a quick overview. First, we are checking emails and getting the ones that has attachments and qualify based on our filters. Then we are grabbing those attachments, saving them to Google Drive. We analyzing them and updating CRM. And then we label emails that we processed. As any other workflow, it also starts with a trigger. And you might wonder why do I have schedule trigger here and not Gmail? So Gmail has a on message received trigger. In theory, it works very nicely because anytime when the email arrives, we can grab it using Gmail trigger. But the reason why I don't want to use it is this thing. In order to grab it at the moment it arrives, we actually have to run this trigger every minute, every hour, right? We actually have to set up schedule. How often do we want to run this trigger? And if you run it every minute, well, you can you can calculate yourself. You're gonna have 60 executions of this flow per hour, multiply by 24 hours. Well, we are looking at 1,200 something executions in a day. And the basic plan of NA10 gives us about 2,500. So we're going to run out of executions in the first couple of days. It's probably a good idea for some workflows, but in this case, we just want to keep our files organized. And most of the time, it doesn't need to be done immediately. It's totally fine to do this check once a day and sort out the emails that we received. So here in my schedule trigger, I do a daily interval, and I set up a trigger hour at 11:59 p.m. And the reason for this is because you will see later when we get to this get emails node, but I actually want to look at all emails that arrived throughout the day, starting at 12 a.m. in the morning, right? So basically, I run this in the last minute of the day and check in for any email that arrived since the beginning of the day. Next up is get all tasks from the ClickUp. So you already know how to work with this node. Here we have folderless list selected, and because in ClickUp you can set up folders within your project space. These two lists, I don't have folders for them, so that's why it's folderless. I'm filtering by specific statuses. I'm only interested in emails from clients that are either at offer stage, closed, or offer made stage. And as an output, I got 4 items here. It's 4 projects: David Lean, Amira Hassan, Sophia Kim, and John Sterling. So it's all 4 projects that we have in those 3 categories. So next, the challenge that we have is that we don't have email information. Like if you look at the schema, and it's kind of hard to see, there are a lot of things that we have here. But one thing that we don't is actual client email. And the reason for that is because clients' profile information actually lives in a separate table. And our project table is just connected to those clients. So what we're going to do with this next node is we're going to try to get clients info. We are using another get task node. And this time we're using custom fields value ID. At the bottom of this list, we have custom fields, and then there is a value for custom fields where we can see David Lean is a name. So this is a value. So this is a specific cell where we capture a client name, and the ID of this cell is 86A7, blah, blah, blah. So what we want is we want to get tasks based on this ID. Next step, it's not necessary. I just created this place to store a few different variables that we're going to use in the future, like project name, project status, client name, and client email. As you can see, the get client info and get projects, every time you open one of those objects, there is dozens of different variables, and we only need 4 of them. So in the future, I don't have to go through this mess, and instead I can just call project client info. Okay, so the next step is get all messages. I have my Gmail account connected, but you might need to connect yours. Luckily, it's very easy to do. There is a sign in with Google button. Messages, operation get many. So we want all the emails. We want all the emails received. And here we put now start of day. So now just gives us a timestamp that we want it now. But if we want to set up this from the beginning of the day, that's where we use start of day. And then we want to filter emails to only pick up emails from our client list. That's why it was a good idea to save some of those variables separately. So we can just grab client email here, and And then, of course, we need to turn on download attachments. And as a result, you're going to receive as in your output the binary data of those attachments. So we have these two files, and you can see and view them here. Okay, next step, again, another filter. We want to see if the attachment has been reviewed or processed. So the first step, we're checking if these attachments even exist. And then if they exist, then we want to check if the email doesn't have a label that it was processed. So we're getting our yesterday emails label IDs. We can just drag and drop it here. But if we do that, what we're going to get is array of important category personal inbox. But it's going to be easier for us to work with a string than array. That's why I use a toString function to just turn this array into string. And then I'm asking if this string does not contain label ID. If you are setting up your nodes in this order, you're actually not going to have this ID. So first, you need to go to your email and create a label here. So Google doesn't give you information about label ID, and you can't use the label itself here. So what I would recommend is not to set it up first and run the entire scenario. And at the end, when you ask to label it, you can select here what you want to label it with, and it will return label ID, right? So we can see that now that email actually has 4. The only one that is not system label is this one. So you can copy it here and you can add it to your filter. Okay, let's continue. So next step, we just want to select a folder where we're going to be sending, where we're going to be saving these files. You already know how to do this. We did this in the previous flow. We select folder, we have search as operation, and then as a search query, again, we can just use this project client info node that we created and drag and drop project name as a search query here because we're searching for the project, for the folder that matches this name. Return all and set up a filter where you select a folder that you are searching through. At this point, we found all the emails that we are interested in, and we got the folder that we want to use. So the next step is actually download attachments and start working with them. Here, you just need to select a message ID because we want to grab specifically that email that we pre-selected in the previous steps. So you can go to get yesterday emails and select ID here. And as a result, we're going to have attachments to this email as an output. Of course, you also need to turn on download attachments. If you don't see that option, make sure that your simplify is turned off. Okay, so the next step, we want to go through each attachment individually and save them. And the challenge here is that we can have a set of attachments because we could have multiple emails and each email has an attachment, but we also can have multiple attachments per email. So it's like a matrix of attachments. And I tried to use a split out node for that and then like merge those attachment binary files with keys. But I find working with in NA10 with binary files is not that straightforward. So the simplest way to do this that I found is to use code node to split out these attachments from this kind of bundle of attachments into 2 separate attachments. To generate this code, I used Ask AI function. I think it's doing a great job for this very specific, simple things. When you need to write a regex or maybe a simple JavaScript like this, that literally the only thing it does, it loops through this array and pushes out attachments out of it. So makes our job much easier. You can copy it from my template. Okay, the next step, now we have 2 items. You can see that there was 1 item, 1 bundle with 2 attachments coming into this node. but we have two items leaving this node. And first, what we want to do is we want to save them in our Google Drive. So we use upload to drive node. After going through this code node, each attachment is now called data. So we can just simply put data as an input data field name. And then file name, you can leave this field empty and it will just take the file name of the file in the attachment as a metadata and apply it. But in my case, what I wanted to do is I wanted to make sure that if there is multiple files with the same name, let's say the real estate agent sent the contract and then one side signed it and emailed it back, and then another side signed it and emailed it again. We want to save each iteration of this, but we also want to know which one is final. So what I'm using is a file name input from binary data, and you can do this by calling object values input item binary 0 file name. So this is a good way to call into this metadata and request specifically file name. And then I'm adding additional line to it, which is now format day, hour, and minutes. So you can see 304, 533. And we select a folder within this drive. To select folder, I use select by ID, ask for ID from find folder node. Okay, we're getting closer. Now we want to extract data and update CRM. So in my case, I'm only interested in one specific file because all the data they need for that final form is in agreement to purchase. That file is PDF, so the first thing I have a filter. I'm checking the extension of binary file. You can see, again, I'm using this object values way to do that. But instead of file name, I'm asking for file extension if it contains PDF. If it does, we continue. I use extract from file, extract from PDF node that I pass binary data. And as a result, I receive this poorly structured text. But that's enough to pass it to another node called extract data, I believe. It's one of those NA10 information extractor. So it's one of those NA10 AI nodes. And with this node, I pass JSON text to it, and I have these specific attributes: document intent, intent of the document, and document name of the document. I'm looking for a document that's kind of called agreement of purchase, but it's also known as Form 100. And I'm not sure that which one of them is an official name. Like AI might decide that Form 100 is a name. So instead, I want to grab both of those things. And in the next filter, when I'm checking if that's the right document, I put both of them here. So now we have Form 100 agreement of purchase and sale. And I am searching if this name and description of the document contains agreement of purchase and sale. You can also notice that I use function to lower the case. So this way I know that regardless of what sentence case I use in the document, it's going to match my request. So I think it's just a good practice and helps to avoid a lot of... Okay, and then the last step, we're going to update project record. So it's another ClickUp node. We select task ID from projects. Select task ID here. And as a content, I put output, extract data, basically outputs. So there is date, seller name, completion date, address, price, all this information. I just put it here. Well, I guess the last thing that I didn't mention is that both extractors operate using LLM model, and in this case, I'm using GPT-4o Mini. And at last, I use add labels message node to mark the emails that we already processed, just to be sure that we're not gonna go through them again. Okay, so hopefully this gives you a good idea how to automate your data wrangling. But there is a little catch here. This data extraction works really well for me because I'm expecting specific PDF. But if you need images, or maybe your PDF is verified by DocuSign, extract from file is not going to work. And that beast can parse images, fancy PDFs, even videos. And another good news, I have a tutorial specifically about it. So if you want to make this flow absolutely bulletproof, go and check it out. Otherwise, like, subscribe, and leave comments. If you're still watching this video, I hope it's because you found it useful, and you can help me a lot by clicking those buttons. Okay, if you import my file, it probably looks something like this, but don't worry, we're gonna fix it. First, ClickUp. You need to create a new credential, and it's very easy. You just need to authorize. It will ask you to select your workspace, and connection is successful. Great. First problem solved. The second problem is a little bit harder. This is Google Drive, but don't worry, we're gonna fix it. Here they have a perfect doc explaining in great level of details how to do that. First step is create a Google Cloud account. You can click here, that's a Google Cloud. I already have my account, so I can just click console, but you're gonna need to click sign up button somewhere here. Once I'm in the console, let's see what's next. Create a Google Cloud console project. Look again, the docs is amazing. You have all the screenshots, how to do this. Create Google Console using your credentials. You will need to click New Project. I will just go and select. Yeah, I will stay with this project. Next, you will need to enable your API. So you need to go API Service Library. I'm just gonna search for that. And here you go, API Library, API and Services. Enable. Okay, great. Here's our auth consent screen. It looks like we didn't configure it yet. So here we can put NA10, user support email is your email, internal. We're going to select internal, contact information. I agree. Create. Application type is web. Okay, we will need, so now we need to go here. We copy this and add it as authorized redirect URL and select create. Copy our client ID. Okay. There is a client ID and then there is a client secret here as well. And after that, you can see there's sign in with Google button showed up. I can just press this button. Again, there's a familiar window. Select account. I allow all these things and connection is successful. And that's it.